My girlfriend's coworker honestly believes a solar charger app on her phone is charging it. What stories do you have of people that are too stupid to use technology? Once my grandma said that she wasn't going to turn on her computer for the entire day because she heard a virus was being released that afternoon. AWW. That reminds me of a story a coworker told once. Grandpa kept his new laptop far away from the old computer so that it wouldn't catch the virus the old computer had. Tee. My boss got a bug on her computer by trying to download smileys or some such nonsense. So, I ran a scan on her computer and told her to watch to see if it caught anything. About 15 minutes later she starts screaming at me from her office help. The screen went all black and there is a box floating around. The virus is taking over. I rolled my eyes and said back, move your mouse a little or press a key. There is a pause. Then oh, okay, it is gone now. Thank you. I have never seen so much panic over a screensaver before. LOL. We put up a sign on the door at work that it's voice activated. Nothing beats listening to people say open 8 times instead of pushing the door open. Let my former roommate borrow my truck a few times. One day he tells me that the radio, simple CD player head unit, stopped working while he was using it. It just won't play the disc. It knows a disc is in there though. After checking it out I realized that there was a Blu-ray movie in it. He wanted to just listen to it. Not sure how he planned on navigating the menu in order to start the movie. You can actually use some old PS1 games. Tony Hawk is the only one I know of for sure, in CD players, and it plays the soundtrack. Wouldn't be all that ridiculous. A fellow who live across the street from my dad wanted me to look at his computer. It has a virus, he said. I asked him what it was doing. The mouse lags a little. What the heck kind of virus makes your mouse a little laggy once in a while? Then there's my grandma, who had a cell phone stuck in airplane mode for 2 years. She said my phone won't do anything. When I worked in an Apple call center, we'd get calls from all sorts of people, young and old, and some of them just made me want to scream. One woman spent 45 minutes with me on the phone trying to figure out why her internet wasn't working. I asked her to power cycle the router. Come to find out, the router was never turned on. She got super snippy with me too, telling me that it didn't need to be plugged in because it was wireless internet. I do tech support for a larger ISP. This is at least a monthly occurrence, as well as many other equally stupid concepts that people come up with. It isn't the stupidity that surprises, but the frequency with which people have the same thoughts. Probably 5-10 times a month people tell me it can't be modem computer whatever is causing the issue, because it just worked yesterday. My sister thinks the animal translator actually works. The amount of stupid human crap she has bought our hamster, based on the app's assumptions of what my hamster says. I mean honestly, how many condoms can a dwarf hamster go through in 1 month? Oh, you'd be surprised. We have an older guy at work. He asked me to download an album for him and I said I could, but not tomorrow because they're closing the internet to clean it. He wholeheartedly believed me and I felt too guilty to tell him I was joking. I once asked an ex-girlfriend to run into the house and ask her dad where he keeps the horn fluid for the car, because the level seemed to be low. I bet her dad appreciated you subtly making fun of his daughter. Haha, I remembered another. My mom had a secretary that was trying to download something in our town but she couldn't find it. She said I'll drive this Saturday to my cousin's house, another town 2.5 hours away, because his internet is different. There I might be able to find it. Face. Fricking. Palm. I had a coworker that one day came into work extremely excited about an app that supposedly charged your phone if you shook the phone repeatedly and hard enough. He stood there shaking his phone whenever he had a spare moment, not listening to me when I tried to explain it was a gimmick. He also told me about an app that would charge his phone 100% if he microwaved it for 1 second. WTF. I wonder if he ever tried it. I've got a 50-something co-worker at my security job who knows nothing about computers. Let's call him John. First time I met John, within 5 minutes of meeting him he starts talking about how I've got these websites I'm getting set up, and once they're going I'm going to be raking in the cash. Won't have to work at this place anymore. I gave him the benefit of the doubt. My grandfather worked as a repair tech for IBM back in the 60s, when a bug was actually a bug and kept up somewhat with the pace of technological change. Maybe this guy did as well. I've just met him, who am I to judge right off the bat? Well, I come in to relieve him after his first couple of shifts, and he says, well, I hope you can fix it, because the computer is totally screwed up. I did something and the keycard program went away. We have a program that tracks the use of swipe cards throughout the site. Who goes in, who goes out, open doors, etc. I said, oh, okay. I'm not really trained well on the system, but let me see what I can do. We might have to call IT. He had minimized one of the windows within the full screen window of the program. I couldn't freaking believe it. Right then and there I knew anything he said about computers from then on was bulls. I tried probing a few days later, asking him what kind of sites he was running, what kind of server he was hosting them on, had he coded them himself, what his business model was, were you going to make money through ad clicks or subscriptions, etc. He had zero answers for of them, saying things like you just set it up and it starts making money. A week later I had to explain to him how Microsoft Word Save As feature worked because he couldn't understand why every time he opened the security log template, his log for the previous shift he had worked would come up. Nor could he figure out where all his reports had been going. He had been saving over the template every shift he worked, manually backspacing all the previous shift's information, re-entering that day's information, then hitting save. I'm like a wizard to him. With a few simple keystrokes I can copy and paste huge sections of text, change the highlighted text without using the mouse, and type a dozen times faster than his pointer poking method. He refuses to learn any of these techniques because I'm not going to be stuck here much longer. You're right about that, John. A friend of mine once dealt with a woman who was getting angry at a color copier because it was printing in black and white. He tried to help her and spent a while troubleshooting the machine until at one point he pulled the original out and discovered that, yes, it was in black and white. He tried to explain to the woman that the machine couldn't reproduce color for a black and white image and the lady yelled, "You don't know what you're talking about. IT's a color copier." My granddad got an iPad because he loves technology. We tried to dissuade him, but we assumed it was simple enough that even he could operate it without breaking it, and one day he comes round to our house and sees me on the computer. He's pretty inquisitive and always wants to know everything even if he doesn't understand a thing. So he looks at my desktop and starts prodding the icons with cons. Naturally I get a bit worried and grab his arm to make him stop and ask what he's doing. He tells me my screen isn't working. I ask why and he says he couldn't press the icons. Dang near broke my screen. Still not sure how his iPad is holding. I try not to ask. I really commend old people for attempting to learn new things. Sure, it can be frustrating, but good for them on wanting to keep up to date. I had to set up a director's laptop with an extended desktop when she got a monitor. It blew her mind. But what is worse is that the next day she moved the monitor to the left side instead of the right of the laptop. She assumed it was broken since she could not longer drag applications from the right screen to the left by going straight left. I explained to her that it doesn't automatically detect that the monitor was physically moved to the other side. I demonstrated this to her, that she could still drag out of the right side of the laptop screen, just to prove the concept. She couldn't comprehend that and I watched as she kept trying to drag through the wrong side of the screen. It made me think of Derek Zoolander not being able to turn left. She is a director at a software company. I work in IT and every now and then one of those people show up. The worst ever was this one lady that was immo dangerously stupid. Like shouldn't be walking around without an attendant stupid. I had to train her 3 times over the phone how to put paper in the printer properly and actually had to go down to the site 3 times to show her in person. She still managed to frick it up and my boss assumed I was the problem and had to get in a 3-way phone call to her to believe how bad she was. When writing the user guide I actually drew a diagram to show how to do this. People jokingly asked me who that drawing was for, and if there were people out there that legitimately can't figure this out, and I said you would be amazed by the people out there. I knew an old gal that tried to tell me that the HD channel of the Weather Channel gave more accurate weather news than the lower definition Weather Channel. I tried for about 10 minutes to explain it to her, then finally just decided to enjoy a laugh about it and let her think she was getting more accurate weather. I work for a very large tech company. Every software developer is automatically subscribed to a couple of different mailing lists when they join the company. Most of these lists are only for important announcements and no one really uses them. Today, one person decided they wanted to unsubscribe from one big list. Hilarity ensued. So, she emails the message unsubscribe to the entire list. She should be sending it to the mailer bot which handles all these operations, but she doesn't. She sends it to the list. Immediately, there are a dozen messages sent out telling her it doesn't work that way. They all go to every dev in the company. This is followed by a round of angry people saying to stop spamming them and telling everyone not to hit reply all. They, of course, all used reply all. So now everyone has about 40 messages related to this thread in their inboxes and are being spammed more by the second. So what do? Hit reply all and ask to be unsubscribed from the list. Dozens of messages, who all witnessed this method not working in the very first email sent, sending unsubscribe to the entire mailing list, and the cycle continues for an hour or two. Hundreds of messages of spam from software developers who can't figure out how to unsubscribe from a mailing list. It was like watching an episode of Three Stooges, only they all had PhDs. Last year, this happened at my university. I received about 180 emails that day. There's a similar app that charges your phone by shaking it, although the tech for this would be simpler than a solar panel. I didn't see anything that said whether they were serious or joking. Also, it sounds implausible. I have a flashlight that charges when you shake it. There's a large magnet inside that goes back and forth, in anticipation of any jokes. Not a shake, wait, not a flashlight. There. I work in tech support for TV company. My computer won't turn on. When I press power all it says is no signal. They are turning on the monitor and not the tower. This one isn't about not knowing technology, it's about claiming to know technology and disregarding any advice. One guy I knew worked with computers for 15 years, about my age, worked on a computer every day, 10 hours a day, spends his time downloading torrents and posting to websites worse than Reddit. He basically lives in front of a computer. He comes to me one day a couple of years ago and says he needs a new computer. I start mentioning laptops. He basically tells me that laptops are horrible, and he's done hours and hours of research, and a laptop is not for him. I find this strange, as his budget would allow a good laptop, and he travels a bit. But after 10 minutes of extolling how a laptop is nearly as good as a desktop in terms of price and quality, that laptops are not clunky pieces of crap anymore, and that no one except gamers guys desktops anymore. He claims he knows all the problems of laptops and pretty much claims he is an expert. I tell him about my setup with dual monitors and a docking station at work, but he just keeps insisting that he knows better. Okay, whatever. Then, one day, he comes to me in 2011 and says he saw the most amazing thing. Apparently, someone hacked a laptop to work with another monitor. At that point did I realize that through his hours of research, through his 15 years of working in front of a computer, he never realized you could use an external monitor for a laptop. Even after I told him that, I said, remember when I told you about a docking station so you can have your laptop feel like a desktop? His response was, oh, I just assumed that it kept the laptop securely on the desk so it would fall off. You know, like a tower. Remember when I told you about dual monitors? He just assumed that I just placed two laptops next to each other. Laptops really are much worse though. You take a big hit in price or quality compared to a desktop, especially if you do any kind of gaming. I just told my mom about this brilliant app and she argued that it was completely real. She then showed me a solar powered app that she paid $2.99 for. I've got some excellent beachfront property in Kentucky for sale if your mother is interested. We even have a timeshare option. Technology. I once knew a guy who thought the dimmer switch on your car's rear view mirror functioned by bouncing the image off the interior roof. He did have some issues. I'm going to be honest. As far as I know those things run on voodoo and unicorn farts. My coworker thought she downloaded an app that let her charge her phone by shaking it. Everyone else thought it was legit too. These are the same people who thought an eclipse made objects balance on their end. I have so many stories. My mom had an electric screwdriver. It stopped working one day when she was in the middle of hanging pictures. She was a bit PO'd that her screwdriver was broken. I suggested she change the batteries and I kid you not, she said it has batteries. Once I picked my jaw off the floor. I asked what she thought it ran on. She thinks, realizes her idiocy, and come back with magic. Normally an intelligent woman who has little to no problems texting or using her iPad, but an electric screwdriver trolled her hard. Clearly she's a time lord. I used to work with a woman in her 40s. What follows is more or less a grocery list of the jaw-dropping ineptitude of this person in the face of all things modern. I first saw the tip of the iceberg when I noticed she'd sweep all of the rooms instead of use a perfectly good vacuum cleaner. Weird, but she could be doing it for variety's sake, right? Then I noticed she never measured out the laundry detergent for the washer. I showed her the correct measurements. Fine. Again, no big deal. About a couple of months in, the floodgates open. She starts asking me to take pictures of things for her. When I ask her why she can't take them herself, she explains that she doesn't know how to work her digital camera. Ooh, okay. I ask her why she listens to the radio when we're allowed to listen to our own music, and find out that she doesn't know what her MP3 player is. Then, to add to the confusion, I have to explain to her that not all MP3 players are iPods. Blew her mind on that one, but I totally lost her when podcasts came up. I then learned that she doesn't own a computer because they make her nervous. Yep, when it comes time for her to get a new phone, she upgrades to a model which must have been 5 years old. She still doesn't know how to answer it or use the camera. In fact, she was so clueless about her own plan that I had to explain that no, you can't send and receive text messages when you don't pay your cell phone bills. But the worst was yet to come. I discovered that another coworker had to explain to her what a nut and washer are. 4 decades of life, and she had no idea what 2 of the most basic building components to almost everything built around her were called. The icing on the cake was when she declares that she believes all machines need to rest, and that their performance improves after doing so. After scooping my brains back into my skull, I try telling her that no, only the ones that generate heat will noticeably improve after rest. Then why does my friend's toilet flush better is her response. I just stare. My head aches. Because she has a different brand of toilet. I manage. It doesn't matter how much rest you give one after it refills. Some toilets flush with more power. I then had to educate this woman, 17 years my senior, about how shower heads work, the properties of water pressure, and finally, how letting a broken machine rest will not fricking fix it. A colleague told me with shock and horror what she found inside one of those crank to power eco flashlights, batteries. Obviously, the whole thing was just a rip-off, except without a battery to store the electric charge while you're cranking. The flashlight would only work while you're cranking. The battery makes it so you can actually charge and then use the light. Done. She has a PhD in a technology-related discipline, too. Some of them are fakes. I worked at a shop that sold some of the fake ones without realizing it. You could tell it was fake because the light didn't change intensity when you would shake it. Also, none of the wires inside attached to the coil inside. It just ran on 3-watch batteries until it died. Nobody in my family liked going to my grandfather's house due to some irritating ringing noise that was very faint in volume. The noise drove everyone without a hearing aid, that is, almost insane, from just standing in the house for about 5 minutes. My sister and I recently found out the TV in the guest room was on for a little over a year, which made all of us feel that we were too stupid to turn off a TV. One way to directionally track a faint sound to its source: put a cardboard tube over your ear, pointing outwards, block the other ear, and spin in a slow circle. Move 6 feet in the direction that the sound is loudest, and repeat. If the sound is about the same in all directions, move the tube up and down to find out if the source is higher or lower than your ear. Worked at a computer repair shop and got a call one day from a state park in the middle of nowhere asking if we could install a sound card. Yeah, we can do that. So the computer gets shipped a few 100 miles. I install the sound card and ship it back. I then get a call from a rather angry state park ranger saying it did not work. I walk her through several tests and I can hear over the phone the test sounds just as I expected. She is still insisting that it is not working. I ask her if she can hear the sounds. There is a long pause. She asks, "Is that all it does?" Another long pause. "Ah yeah," I say. Then after another long pause, "Okay, bye." Never heard any more about it. I can no longer bear to fix my mom's computer for her. No matter how many times I talk to her about malware and the dangers, stupidity in downloading every damned cursor and smiley she can find in one sitting, she continues to ignore me. She complains that her computer doesn't start up as fast as it used to. She uses IE. She turns the thing off every time she walks away from it. I just can't handle it anymore. Put Ubuntu on that sucker. My cousin used to be service rep for an ISP company back in the old days of dial-up. He told me that more than once, when he directed the person calling to close a window, they would stand up and close a real window. After closing said window they would say, it's getting kind of dark in here. I can't see my keyboard, ha 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 ha." Not really two stupid people, but a fun story anyway. In my college we had this faucet that worked by stepping on a button on the floor right below the sink. Every single new student, including me, was flabbergasted and we all needed to examine the sinks carefully to discover how they worked. In my second semester though, my friend and I would crap ourselves with laughter by teasing the new students. When we noticed some new guy entering the toilets we would go in as well, and as he pee or stuff we would pretend to just chat or something. When he approached the sinks we would clap our hands and press the button right after. So it would seem as clapping your hands would open the faucet. I can't tell you how many times I were too close to pee my pants in laughter while watching these new kids clapping the crap out of their hands without getting any water. Back in the 90s I changed the family computer's screensaver so that the screen would go black and have a flashing red script scrolling across the screen that said, "Warning, this computer is infected and is self-destructing. Back away from the computer." My mom, who had paid a lot for the computer, cried bitterly when she saw it. I felt terrible. My mom is very gullible. On multiple occasions I got her by saying, "Hey look, someone wrote gullible on the ceiling." She'd look up and say, "Where?" Whenever I fix someone's computer and have to unplug a cord, I hand it to them and instruct them to hold it upright so the data doesn't spill out. About half of them fall for it. The other half just laughs. A boss of mine once told me to redirect a Twitter URL because someone had mentioned the wrong account. I told her that I couldn't do that. She flipped out and told me to ask someone else to make sure. I worked at a tech company and I got these kinds of requests daily. My grandparents bought an iPad, and I went to go see them around 6 months after they got it. They asked if I could help fix it, and said that the sound wouldn't work. I figured it was probably something simple. Oh, how right I was. I played around in the settings menu for a bit, then, on a whim, tried the volume switch. They'd had it on mute for half a year, so I pretended like I was doing more computery stuff for a few minutes, then handed it back to them. This'll probably get buried, but a while ago a bunch of my accounts were being hacked by a couple of buttholes and I was up with a friend who works in IT trying to stay one step ahead of them. It was about 3 AM and my dad bursts into my room. I was 17 at the time, demanding to know why I'm up at such an hour etc, etc. I told him the situation, trying to save my accounts and such, and he tells me to turn off my computer and deal with it in the morning. Because turning off your computer stops everything on the internet. Also, he regularly tries to fix the family computer and just ends up doing more damage, and when he gets frustrated he'll just scream at it and start pounding on his laptop. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.